why don't we go ahead and get started? So first of all, my name is Shannon Roddy. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Avenue7Media. We are very excited to welcome you to our webinar today, Building a Household Brand Name with a Full Funnel CTV Strategy in 2026 Without Spending Millions. Again, this applies to challenger brands who are looking to scale and dominate within their categories, but it also does work if you already have a household brand name and are looking to defend and future-proof your business. So Laura, with that, you can go ahead and get to the next slide. All right, fantastic. So moving on to the agenda, sort of the overview. Today, we're going to be covering the digital revolution. This is kind of looking at the landscape of how Amazon is disrupting the current linear strategy that was formerly the way to become and build a household brand name, and all the things that have changed fundamentally underneath that, sort of creating this opportunity in today's age. Christina is going to be giving an overview of our advertising stair-step, and then her and Jessica are going to talk about these ads creative synergy. This is really the magic and the heart of what makes this process work. And that's part of our partnership with the team here at VideoFresh. So Christina will talk about customer personas through Amazon Marketing Cloud. Jess will be talking about customer sentiment analysis through creative. And then Rob is going to take over on creative stair-step to the cloud, really applying the insights to creative at all stages of the funnel. And then we're going to share some really exciting case studies in terms of how this actually works and the results that we've been able to get for our clients, followed by a Q&A session and wrap up. So again, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in. And I will turn this over to Christina to introduce herself and Rob to introduce himself, and we will get started.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Hall. I'm the Director of Traffic here at Avenue7Media. I joined the company last year in 2025. Fair warning, I'm originally from Germany, so you might hear an accent here or there, especially since I'm a little bit nervous, but that's okay. I'm in Washington State now, and I've been in the digital advertising space for going on 16 years, and really in the last 10 years specializing in helping brands and clients utilize those full funnel strategies to really help them grow and also understand their customers better. And I was asked to give a little fun fact, so here we go. I have to say that I'm scared of heights, but for some reason, I love roller coasters, and the higher and the faster, the better. So very weird.
Awesome. Well, Christina, we're excited to have you as our subject matter expert on this webinar, talking about the advertising. Rob, over to you. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Shannon. My name is Rob Wiltsey, and I'm the founder and CEO of VideoFresh. And we've been around for 10 years now, creating high-performance e-commerce videos for every stage of the funnel. So that's your sponsored brands video ads, DSP, CTV, all the stuff we're going to be talking about today. And I guess a fun fact about me is I play the mandolin in a bluegrass band. That is a lot of fun. So
that is indeed a fun fact. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you a quick overview just so you understand who Avenue7Media is. We are first and foremost a strategic business partner and a fully managed service provider. Our mission is to drive transformative growth that elevates our clients' businesses both on and off Amazon and beyond. And our primary focus is Amazon, but we also support other platforms and marketplaces like Walmart, Target, etc.
Yeah, and so VideoFresh is a performance-focused video partner for e-commerce brands. We create high-converting ad content designed to drive measurable growth across Amazon and other e-commerce channels. And we have a ton of great project examples that we worked with Avenue7. So it's been a great partnership with you guys. So
awesome. Rob, super excited to have you guys here. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to give a quick overview of the digital revolution, at which point I'll hand it off to Christina and Jess, and then over to Rob to talk about the creative side. So let's talk for a minute about the old way of brand building, right? 1950s, TV is a brand new medium. People are buying TVs, put them in their home. And there are little companies like Procter & Gamble that decide to go all in on this new medium. Well, they have established themselves as a powerhouse by using the medium of choice. Well, things are changing. Linear TV was very expensive. The commercial production alone could be very, very costly, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single shoot and a single commercial. There was expensive media buys. So you had threshold minimums of $250,000 just to get an ad on television. And you had a lack of persona customization. You could really only do one commercial kind of for everybody. And that was sort of just the inherent limitation of the platform. And there was very limited attribution visibility. Brands didn't really know how effective that marketing was. They could see signs and signals, but they would have to use calling centers to sort of understand where did customers hear about us. And they had no idea how much money they were wasting and how many of their dollars were going to get their commercial in front of customers who were not their ideal customers. Now, in the midst of this, Amazon has been quietly disrupting digital advertising. And what started as a bottom of the funnel demand capture platform has evolved significantly over the years, specifically with the introductions of Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is Amazon's online clean room to provide multi-touch attribution, Amazon DSP or demand side platform, which is automated media buying on and off Amazon. And of course, most importantly, Amazon Connected TV. It's now a full stack, full funnel advertising platform. And they invested heavily in content, $11 billion contract to license the rights for Thursday Night Football over the next 11 years, and $8.5 billion to acquire MGM Studios and all the content, while continuing to invest in Amazon Prime Video. Not to mention, there's 200 million Amazon Prime customers for which Amazon has literally all of our shopping history, purchase data. They listen to us on Alexa, Amazon Music preferences, Amazon Video preferences. And so they've got this customer data and content, and their mission is to connect content to commerce in a way that's never before been possible. Now, linear TV is dying. If you look at sort of the trends, it's just, month over month, year over year, people are unplugging their cable. They're signing up for YouTube. They're signing up for Netflix and Sling and everything else. And CTV is taking over. So what we're seeing is linear viewership is in decline. CTV is actually growing at a faster rate. We're watching more TV, just in a different fashion. And the content production capabilities, as Rob's going to outline, are really growing. Instead of just an entire shoot for a single commercial, you can actually create multiple pieces of content within a single shoot. And the use of AI is accelerating that to, in some cases, you don't even have to do a shoot. You're still able to create incredible content that's personalized. And that's the last piece that's so important, is you have the ability to customize content to a customer persona in a way that, again, has never before been possible. So all of that essentially equates to a revolution in full funnel advertising. We're not doing this old spray and pray model where you're dumping money in at the top of the funnel, hoping somehow, somewhere that the ad dollars that you're spending at the top of the funnel are making it down to bottom of the funnel purchases. Amazon now has full funnel capabilities. You can do targeted customer personas, knowing exactly who that audience is, and you can target them using finely tuned creative that has been optimized and fine-tuned using A/B testing. This is essentially an unprecedented opportunity that has literally never before been possible in history. So that's kind of the foundation of digital advertising, where we were yesterday, where we are today, and where we're moving in the future. And we're very excited to share exactly how we do this at scale for our clients. So that said, I'm going to hand it over to Christina to talk about our advertising stair-step and how this process looks.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. So before we dive into, I want to piggyback off of what Shannon said, and I also want to introduce you to the idea of using CTV as that commerce bridge. Like when we looked at it previously, having a TV commercial was a branding luxury. It was something that you did after you had massive success. You had millions of dollars to spare in cash, and that's when you did it. But CTV makes it possible, and it's no longer a luxury. It's actually an essential part in the infrastructure to your growth. And especially if you're stuck in the 7-figure range right now, it's probably because you've reached that peak PPC performance, meaning that you've captured all of the existing demand for your keywords, for your targets on that bottom funnel. But really to get to that next level, it's now up to you to create the demand. You're going to have to reach people before they even use the search bar. And I want to highlight some more facts with why that's important, because streaming right now, for the first time actually, now it has surpassed the share of broadcast and cable. And when you think about it, in 2026, in the US, adults are projected to spend an average of 131 minutes on CTV every single day. Plus, CTV is also now the second most consumed media after our beloved cell phones that I'm sure everybody's addicted to. Maybe, but I am, I'm sure. I know. And then the other fact that really surprised me too is that around 90% of US households now actually own at least one internet connected TV. So they're using the streaming services to watch the shows, the movies, and everything else, the sports now, and make that accessible. And then also to the point of what Shannon said earlier, linear is definitely in decline. It's down 4%, whereas CTV has accelerated growth. It's up 13.6%, and it's only growing. Plus, when you look at the ad completion rate, comparing linear versus CTV, linear is very low, whereas CTV has a very high engagement. And I read stats where it shows up to 94% of viewers actually being engaged and watching the content, which is incredible, because I remember linear TV, whenever there's a commercial, I left the room and did whatever else I needed to do. So why do we call it the bridge here? It's because CTV can actually finally connect that content directly to that card. Previously, when you saw a TV ad, you probably forgot the name. Maybe if the brand was lucky, they remembered you the next time they were shopping at the store or when they were shopping online. But with Amazon CTV infrastructure, it's really paved with data. And when you can reach people that are watching their screen in their living rooms while they're logged into their Amazon account, and that makes a difference. And so we can really track that viewing experience all the way to the purchase. And that, yes, it's great, a game changer for Amazon-centric sellers, but I would say even beyond that, even if you're not on Amazon, this is definitely a game changer, because you're not just buying eyeballs and impressions anymore, you're really buying that direct path for a consumer to your storefront. There's a hard truth, though, that I need to share with you real quick. Top of funnel is mandatory for sure, because we're seeing that sea of sameness on Amazon. And if you're someone that is solely relying on bottom of the funnel, you're probably fighting a price war every single day. And really, the only way to win this is if your customer is looking for your brand name. So let's make sure that we understand that we cannot just wait for people anymore to find you. We really need to go out and find them. And that's what we want to talk more about with our proprietary approach of the stair-step to the cloud. And before we get to that, I want to have you look at the funnel, right? Because I just told you top of the funnel is mandatory. But most brands, when they hear that, they panic a little bit, right? They hear TV, they need a TV commercial, or they need to do brand building. But and that usually correlates with, oh, I have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get production, a shoot, and all of that, and then throw it out and then see what really sticks. But actually, that's the fastest way that you can fail. So you don't want to jump to the top from the start. And that's what we explain with the stair-step. But I want you to look at the funnel first. I want you to stop looking at that funnel as a bucket that you fill. I want you to start looking at it as a filter for your best customers. So instead of going from the top down, you go from the bottom up. I know that we've been taught usually to start at the top, to spend on awareness and hope that what we call the spray and pray approach works and catches some customers. But especially if you're out and looking for profitability, that is really a high risk gamble for you. So because you're going to pay for everyone to talk to everybody, and that means also the people that for sure are never going to buy from you. So we want to look at that differently, and we start at the bottom, at the people that we already know are clicking, they're adding to cart, they're buying from you, and that's what we call the hot data. And why do we look at this? Because they basically already told you who they are as a customer, and that's our seed, and that's what we use for everything else, what we're gonna do next. So once we have that, we identify that core profile of the customer. We're not just going to run more ads. We're going to look at the Amazon data. We're going to look at AMC, DSP, and then really create those lookalikes for your best customers. So we're not guessing who to target, but we're really looking at the traits of those people and scaling them because they already shown that they give you the money. So that's turning that top of funnel from that branding luxury into that data-backed expansion. And it's very efficient and effective for those two reasons, because we're not paying to educate all of the people. We're really paying to reach the right audience for you. And the audience, it's also effective because the audience has already proven that the message resonates with them. So you're building that journey for them and not just gathering more impressions. So with that, the reason why brands usually fail at DSP or CTV is because they want to jump to that last level, right? But we need a few steps before that to get there. And we really want to start at the bottom of the staircase, what we call the staircase. It's the ground floor, and the foundation is so very important because that's where you have the people that with the intent to purchase. It's also where the intent is the highest, and that should be your baseline for everything else. And if that foundation isn't solid, then if you just add more traffic and more awareness to it, is not going to help. It's just going to expose more of what's not working. And what does that include? So your whole full funnel suite of sponsored product ads. So your typical sponsored product ads, your sponsored brands, your images, your displays, your videos, and then also your sponsored display. Now, a lot of brands make the mistake to not, for example, utilize sponsored display. But I will tell you that they're especially important for that next step of that staircase, especially if you don't want other brands to really steal market share from you. And also if you want the DSP and CTV campaigns to be as effective as they possibly can be. So you want to include really strategically placed sponsored display, offensive and defensive ads at a minimum, but then also start looking at the behavior of your customers. What are they doing on Amazon? Once we have that, we can then get to the next step of retargeting and conquesting and make that step into DSP. And this is really about efficiency. That is about taking the lowest hanging fruit that's in front of you. Because people have interacted with your brand, but they might have gotten distracted. They have not completed that purchase yet, or have not come back to you to purchase again. That's one side. And the other thing that we're looking at is your competitors, to really find shoppers that are already shopping in that aisle, shopping for those type of products, but they just don't know you yet. That's the difference. And again, we don't guess what people want. We really work with Rob's team here to build the custom creative. We then can plug it into those two stair steps, and we can test it against the people that already know you. Because if the creative is not working with those people, then you don't want to show it on a 65-inch TV screen in front of a stranger that has never interacted with you. So once we have proven that that works, we then can move into the in-market prospecting. And that is really where the CTV bridge, what we call it, begins to start building. So we show the winning assets that we've just selected and discovered to those people that are actively shopping in your category, but they don't know your brand yet. They have not interacted with you. And it's all about education and storytelling here. We're not just going to throw out an ad and say, buy now, get it here, shop today. We're telling a story. So to the people that already have shown an interest in your products, but not just your direct products yet. And that is helping to bridge that gap between what they're searching for and your brand. And then we get to the cloud. And that's when we have the conversion data. We know exactly who your persona is and which creative they're responding to. And that is what's really building that growth for you. We then scale to those wider reach CTV audiences, but we can do it with certainty who we're targeting. So the other thing too, which I want to really emphasize here, is if someone sees your ad on their TV, and that's why these other steps are so important, we also want to be ready to follow up with them again on their phone, on their laptop, in all of these different placements. And without the foundation, you can't imagine your CTV ad being like a billboard that you're showing in the desert. It's not going to reach the right people. So by the time that you're spending the big bucks at that top of the funnel, you have de-risked that investment. And you're not spraying and praying anymore. You're really looking to build that household brand name, but without the risk. And there are two enablers that I want to quickly mention. And I know it's a lot about advertising. We're going to get to creative in a second. But AMC data is so very important. It's specific to your audience. You want to create those lookalike audiences, those audience segments that share the same traits as your buyers at the bottom of the funnel. And that really helps to scale their awareness intelligently. It's also helping to reach those new customers that are more likely to engage, and not just anyone that is, scrolling by as they're going about their day. And that AMC really allows you to create, to optimize, to expand, and to retarget to those audiences, and gives you that insight and visibility to really understand how each of those touch points contributes to the end conversion, but also how you can continually refine that performance. And then what we're going to talk about next is the creative, making sure that the message is tailored to the audience based on the stage in their customer journey, and also specific to the placement. So a display ad is going to be different than an online video ad, is going to be different than a streaming TV ad, right? They're all tailored to where the shopper is in their specific journey, so that it means that they get the right message at the right time and on the right screen. That was a lot. All right, so how do we get to that? How do we connect the two, the ads and the creative? And I'm going to tell you that first part that we do what we look at when we create the ads is to create that 360 customer persona. And we really want to build effective campaigns. And with that, we cannot make assumptions about who our customer is. We don't just want to know who we think our customers. We really want to understand their actual digital footprint, what they're doing and how they're behaving. And so we have bucketed in like these three things. And again, this is very high level, give you an idea, understanding of how we build it. This is not an exhaustive list of how you can do it. And it also depends on your brand and category. But one of the first things is really to understand that behavioral foundation. So we use, for example, the DSP overlap report, really identifying exactly where our customers are hanging out when they're not on our product detail pages. So let's do an example, right? For example, we can see that they have higher affinity interests with sustainable living or healthy foods. Then we look at AMC to the path to conversion. So really understanding what is the sequence of events? How do they get to the purchase? Are they watching a streaming TV ad? Then they're going to search for us, and then they see a display ad, and they finally purchase. And then we also want to look at the timing. When do they buy? How often? How long does it take them? Once we have that, we can then deepen their persona to really understand the rest of their buying and habits. So for that, again, some examples how we can do that is look at gateway ASINs, really identifying the entry point products that they use. So for our persona, it could be somebody who loves or is looking for organic coffee pots. Then we also look at their basket composition, meaning what else are they buying, what else is in their cart. So for example, if they're eco-conscious, they might have bamboo toothbrushes or vegan snacks that they're shopping for. Again, we're looking at that new to brand behavior and the frequency, how they're buying. Is that more a persona that needs time to research? Are they taking like 14 days to convert? Do they need 10 impressions and touch points before they buy? All of that we are finding out with the AMC audiences. And then also depending on the brand, we want to look at the subscribe and save data. So really understanding what goes on before the customer actually does subscribe and save. What are the patterns? What are the journey insights that we can get? And then building an audience for those shoppers who might have purchased your products multiple times before, but they have not signed up for it. And then at the third section, we overlay that data with first-party demographic data. So we have the behavioral data and we have the demographics. And that is really giving our data a face and a name. So in our example, it might be, we're looking at a 25 to 40-year-old female. They're in a high-income urban area, and they're not just buying a product. They really want to buy back their time, and they also want to support their values of sustainability. So we know we can put a face to it now. And really the key takeaway that I want you to have is we want to verify the behavior, not just react on a gut feeling. And that's what we can do by combining the AMC data with the demographic insights and then create the persona to have a roadmap where we want to spend our next dollars on advertising. And with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Jessica. She's our Senior Brand and Creative Strategy Manager, and tell you a little bit more about customer sentiment and how that plays into the whole persona as well.
All right. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. So everything that Christina just mentioned, we then combine it with what we call the customer sentiment analysis. And what this basically is how we understand what customers actually want and care about before developing content or messaging. And how we do that is that we go to Amazon and look at the real Amazon data. So customer reviews, customer Q&A, negative customer experiences, reasons for returns, and product opportunity explorer to understand who is buying the product and identifying recurring questions, concerns, and unmet expectations. So this creates a clearer picture for us of what motivates the clients, what objections they have, and decision drivers before making the purchase. And then once those insights are clear, we use them to shape content across the customer journey. So the goal is to address concerns before customers hesitate, also reduce confusion that may lead to returns, and reinforce a benefit that truly influences their purchasing decisions. Whether it's copy or visual content, messaging is everything. And we're trying to build it to reflect what customers are really, wanting to know and are telling us through this data. And that way the content feels relevant, clear, and trustworthy. So this is what we call customer sentiment analysis. And then with all this data that we get from this and everything that Christina just shared, then we pass it on to Rob. And Rob can work his magic. And now I'm going to hand it over to him so that he can explain his process to us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jess.
Cool. Hey, yeah, thank you both. That was really awesome overview. I think you summed it up really, really well. And like you said, now we have the data that we need to be crafting the high performance content. And like you said, there's a stair-step approach. So you don't want to. You have to basically earn your way to the next step. And the way that you earn your way to the next step is by determining what works and what you're. So now, like we've said, that we've done the persona analysis, which tells us who the customers are and how they behave. We have the sentiment analysis, which tells us what they care about. And a lot of times what we find is the thing that the brand cares about telling the customer is not always identical to what the customers care about. And like we've said, where do you find out what they actually care about? Where you look at reviews, you look at Q&As, you look at all kinds of things that tell you from their own mouth what they care about. So now let's walk through exactly what this stair step, how we execute this stair step. So starting at sponsored brands video ad creative. So sponsored brands video ads have a very close place in my heart because they are like it's the perfect way to like split test everything you want. It's such a versatile, not only is it a versatile ad product where you have a lot of leeway in terms of what you're communicating about the product, what keywords you pair that against. But like we've said, it's really, really high purchase intent. So you are testing at the bottom of the funnel. That customer is typing something in because they want to buy something. They want to buy it right now. And if they're typing in long tail details into those keywords, they're actually telling you specifically what they will click on. So this is like the biggest hack ever is if all that your creative does, first and foremost, is just be relevant to what they are searching for specifically. So for example, if they are searching waterproof backpack, right? And a bunch of backpacks come up in pictures of backpacks with white backgrounds. Okay, is that one waterproof? Is that one waterproof? I can't really tell. That says waterproof. But then if you have a video ad that's like waterproof, and you got water like rolling off of the backpack, you are resonating. You are being more relevant than every other search result on that page. And so that's something we really look at with every opportunity, with every product. So what does this mean for the stair-step? Well, we know the sentiments now because we've done that analysis. Avenue7's done that analysis, and here we are ready to create some content. So what we want to do is take the top categories of sentiment, of customer sentiment, and really just nail that messaging with a sponsor brands video, a version 1 that's about this sentiment, a version 2 that's about this sentiment. So we come up with, say 5 versions of a sponsor brands video ad. We pair those up with the keywords, the set of keywords that appeals to that sentiment. And this is something we do all the time anyway. And what we always see is a huge increase in click-throughs first of all, compared to just making one video that says everything, right? When we make multiple videos that just nail these different categories of sentiment analysis, unsurprisingly, you get way more click-throughs. So then what we want to do is we want to look at, well, what actually leads to the most conversions from those click-throughs? And the sentiments that lead to the most conversions, that is really where you have the data you need to then earn your way to the next step, which is your, I believe, OLV and your OLV and your DSP, which is kind of that middle funnel, right? So, in a couple other things to say about sponsored brands video ads. So really, you want to be doing 2 things at once, right? You want to be designing for optimal click-throughs and conversions, and you also want to be designing for your stair-step experiment, right? You kind of want to be doing these 2 things at once if you know that you're going to be moving on to OLV, DSP, and CTV, and that full funnel. So a couple other just little best practices: keep them short and sweet. Keep them to like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Less is more. You kind of want to leave the customer wanting more a little bit. You want to be like, yes, we are the product that you are looking for. So now click through to learn all about it, right? We're not gonna sit and educate you here on the search results page. Like if you like what you see, click through and we'll tell you all about it. That's a lot more effective. And have the visuals. You don't have to grab their attention in the same way you do at other stages of the funnel. And the reason for that is they proactively want the product already. Just focus on appealing to that search result. So now let's assume we have a couple winners. We have maybe out of those 5 that we tested, 3 of those sentiments really resonated. They really took the lion's share of the conversions. Now we can move on to the next one, which is our DSP and OLV. So we've already concluded what sentiments lead to the most sales. So now what we're going to do at the DSP and OLV level is experiment with different ways of expressing that from a creative standpoint. We're going to test now different creative approaches because DSP and OLV, unlike sponsored brands video ads, they're not actively in a shopping moment, probably, right? They could be, but also they could not be. And so what you really need to do with these ads is test different opening hooks, test different creative directions, test different ways of presenting the problem, right? Because at these levels at this stage in the funnel, what you really need to be doing is reminding them of a relevant problem that they have, right? Assuming that you're targeting the right customers, you kind of have to open up with a bit of a problem. You can't just be like, hey, buy this product, like you're saying, direct response, because they're not really necessarily in that headspace. A lot of times they're browsing some other web page or watching some other media. They're not thinking about shopping. So what you need to do is actually take them from that psychological state of, I just want to get this ad over with so I can watch what I want, right? To, you know what, I actually do need that. That actually is a problem I have. Okay, interesting. This product exists. It solves my problem, or it's something that I would add value to my life. So So you open up with problem, and then you kind of you segue into how the product and the brand fits into that lifestyle, fits into that solving that problem. So at the DSP and OLV level, now you've again run a series of different creative approaches to expressing these sentiments, and then you're going to have a winner. And once you're going to have one or two or three winners, or however many. So now you're earning your way to CTV, and CTV is now the the thing about CTV is you are going to be and so if we go to the next slide for CTV. The thing about CTV is you do not want to be guessing, like we've said with CTV. Another analogy that I think it kind of goes nicely with the stair-step analogy is I don't know if anyone out there has seen on YouTube, there's like those trick shot videos, or they're on like Instagram and stuff, where you have a guy with a ping pong ball, and you see him trying to throw it over and over, and it bounces off pots and pans and boxes and random stuff, and then it goes in a cup. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, how many tries did it take this guy? It must have taken him like all day or whatever. So the way that they do that is they start with the first pot. They put the first pot there and they throw it, and it goes boink. And then they go, cool, where did it land? Oh, it landed there. So I'm going to put the next pot right there. And then where does it go? Boink, boink. So literally you can make this happen just by iterating one by one. That's all we're doing. So, starting a CTV campaign without that insight would be like just setting up a bunch of pots and pans and being like, it's going to bounce off 10 pots and pans and go right in the cup. We don't, that's crazy, right? You need to earn but then the good news is you could totally do it with this process. And so now at the CTV level, you have earned the ball is making it all the way to the cup. So now what you're going to explore at the CTV level is your brand voice, your brand messaging, your brand emotions, because really CTV is all about increasing brand awareness and awareness of your product. And so what you want to do at the very top is, being armed with what messaging works, what sentiment works. Now you get to play around with ways of making a memorable brand impression and earning mind share with your customers, which is super great. So and there's obviously production expectations at that level. Usually it's more cinematic, higher production quality, something that really says about the brand, hey, this is like the premium option. This is a household, for all you know, this should be a household brand name, right? So it's really where you kind of build that credibility and elevate the status of your brand with those CTV placements as well. Shannon also mentioned mentioned AI, which is obviously a huge topic. We could go an hour just on AI. What I would say about AI, because this is a message I think is important right now, is there's a lot of misconceptions around AI. And it's also an incredibly useful thing. So what AI essentially allows you to do is from a production standpoint, it opens up a whole new set of tools that just showed up overnight. It means we can edit footage and manipulate footage much more easily. Obviously, we can generate clips from scratch. My main message for 2026 with AI is what I've found and what I see brands doing is it's easy to push a button and get video. If you can push a button and get a video, that's not the video you want, because your competitors are doing that. You want a video that is well thought out, data backed, and designed to do something different and stand out from the noise. And if everyone's doing the push a button, get a video, that's your opportunity to stand above that noise. And so my message is don't let AI make you strategically lazy or creatively lazy with your content, because that is the temptation. And there will always be a baseline, and that baseline now includes generative AI content. What you want to make sure you're doing is that your brand is doing something special, especially at the CTV level, especially at the DSP level, because those are where you make unique brand impressions. And so you're going to see a lot of AI content this year. And you're going to see some people doing it at a very low level, and some people doing it at something at a higher level, and something that's more special and memorable. And that's where you're going to get results. You're going to get more sales, the more inspiration and the more human effort goes into your content and into your strategy. So, I'll give a quick. So now we're going into some case studies. So we're going to talk about at each of these stages of the stairs. a quick example of it's kind of just a success story case study. So there's a brand we work with that sells, and by the way, it's a brand you've all heard of, but for now we'll say, they sell door locks and keypads for your house. We did exactly what we're saying. We looked at the sentiment analysis, the keywords, we broke it up into different categories. And previously they had just been kind of running like just standard creative that wasn't really broken out that way. Once we went through and anchored the creative in the insights we got from the reviews, the keywords, all that stuff, we really saw an 8x increase in their ROAS from what they had previously been doing. And so huge success. And I think it really speaks to just making sure that your sponsor brands videos are just locked in with the search intent. A lot of that comes from the keywords, and it also comes from all those other places we talked about too. So, and I think next we have a case study example for like OLV and maybe DSP.
Yes, we actually have a case study for every step of the staircase. But this one specifically is that next step for DSP retargeting. And it was a baby product brand that probably a lot of people might also know that are parents. But they came to us, they wanted to explore the next step because they had exhausted everything on the sponsored side. So, but to give you an idea too of how we work, we still want to make sure that the foundation is in a good spot. So we will always look at it. We will always make recommendations, even if we're not the hands-on people that are doing it, because we want to make sure that the DSP and those next steps are actually very efficient for you and get you the results that you want. So for them specifically, we took the top 3 selling ASINs and really ran them on and off Amazon supply sources. And within the second month of doing it, we got an 8.5 ROAS of knowing that it was very efficient. And now we're actually looking at expanding to the next levels because we now understand our audience, we understand the creative, and can move to the next step. And then with OLV, again, a different brand, actually a brand in the fitness industry. And they had exhausted again the other 2 steps. We looked at making sure that the foundation was in place, and based on that, after doing the retargeting and also getting really good results, we really wanted to dive deeper and see if we can drive upper funnel engagement and also introducing more new to brand customers. So also a reminder, I want to make sure that at each of these stages, you also want to look at different KPIs to understand if it's really driving what you want it to drive. So here specifically, we were looking at the CTR. Is that message coming across? And we got an 8.72% CTR, which is really impressive and really indicating that there's this connection between the creative, the message, and really getting the right prospects in. But also some of the other KPIs showed that we were on the right track as well. With the new to brand detail page views showed that we were very effective in having new customers discover us and have that as an entry point. And then also the new to brand detail page views were like 55 cents per view, which is incredibly low. And that showed that highly efficient engagement for those new to brand customers. So now again, we can scale those OLV budgets. We can layer in more mid-funnel displays, ads, and retargeting to really convert that new to brand traffic, and then eventually move on to expand to CTV. And then with CTV, we have the example of a supplement brand. And their goal was really to expand the awareness. Again, we made sure that all of these other stair steps were in place so that it had that good foundation, but also they wanted to get more people in and also increase the lifetime value of their products. And again, I think we showed that by really understanding the persona and achieving some really great success with a 27% growth, revenue growth overall, but also really understanding that awareness piece and seeing that lift of 105% in new to brand purchases. And then also that other piece of the lifetime value with the subscribers that were up by 48%. And then overall throughout it as well, we're looking at, how many households are we reaching? Are we increasing the sessions? Are we increasing the branded searches? Those are all very important metrics that you also want to look at in combination with that to make sure that everything really fits.
Awesome. Christina, Rob, fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to put this together, share your expertise and insight. We're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A section of the chat. We've got some already coming in that I want to go ahead and tee up. Christina, this kind of piggybacks on what you said previously, and we've seen brands come in and ask us to measure CTV in the same way that you measure sponsored product or sponsored brand ads. And I want you to talk for a minute about what is the danger in doing that and approaching DSP and CTV with a KPI mindset that's really specific to sponsored product, sponsored brand ads, and what KPIs should we be measuring with DSP and CTV?
Certainly. Well, it's still harder to measure that direct impact, but I always suggest that we run that direct to cart, click to cart on the TV ad to really see like how many viewers are actually clicking on that. Because you can do it like with your TV remote. You can actually do a voice command for Alexa, and they put it put it in the cart for you, like all of it. So definitely do that, like for sure. But the risk is that you leave everything else out. I talked about the customer journey, right? Streaming that TV ad might be that first capture, and then you leave them if you don't do it, and they don't have the entry point anymore into that conversion path and into that journey for them. And you lose them to a competitor. What you want to look at is really understanding AMC, utilizing AMC to understand what the path looks like, what your customer is taking. You also want to look at new to brand metrics, like how many more new to brand sales are you getting on Amazon? And I also want to caution, look at your other marketing channels. You might be surprised of the lift that you're seeing. So don't just look at Amazon directly, but look overall. Look at your social, look at your website, all of those. Those might spike while you're running your TV commercial there. And then you can also run brand lift studies that really comparing that purchase behavior of people that saw your ad against people who didn't. And that gives you that understanding of how much of a lift it actually is for you when you run that TV commercial.
Yeah, and I know we've had situations where we ran Amazon connected TV ads and saw huge lifts in our clients' Walmart accounts that initially we had to go back and track. Obviously, Walmart does not give us attribution data back to Amazon connected TV. When Walmart gives us a tracking code back to Amazon connected TV, it'll be a new day. But anything else to share, Christine, in terms of how brands need to approach this from a metric standpoint?
I think just be clear upfront, like the KPIs that you want to look at, and track it across your overall channels, not just Amazon, to really understand like how you're getting the customers and what they're doing. And don't look at the ROI, because it's not comparable to the bottom of funnel where they're really like ready to purchase. When they see a TV commercial, they're not ready yet. You have to warm them up. But if you don't do it, your competitors are going to do it.
That's fantastic. Rob, I got a question for you. What's the difference between content that looks beautiful versus content that converts? So brands who say, hey, I've got a great production company and they make these really beautiful, glossy type video shoots, but is that actually driving conversion sales? How would you address that? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, so the production quality of a video really says more about your brand and has more of a subconscious impression. The content, the words, the visual, what you're seeing, what the words are, what the dialogue is, what the order of the shots are, it all being data driven. That's definitely what drives conversions the lower you get in the funnel. I think the higher you are in the funnel, you are appealing to customers when they're not in a shopping moment. I think eye candy, in other words, like beautiful visuals and something that's just interesting to look at, has utility at the top of the funnel, especially with CTV and like OLV. As you go down the funnel, I think that you can close deal. You can like close stuff, if it's something shot on a cell phone or whatever, or if it's AI content that's maybe even like a little sloppy or whatever. Like it's just what it is. I think that now if you're trying to present yourself as a category leader, right? If you're trying to elevate your brand to like, this is the brand in the space, and we work with a ton of those companies, like number one in category on Amazon and elsewhere. You don't want to have low quality stuff anywhere in your funnel, because that's not the expectation. I think that it's one of the easiest ways to stand out especially if you're in a space where there's not a lot of premium, or there's not a lot of like premium content being run by your competitors. Easy way to stand out. Just like people will go, oh, okay, cool. Like that's the brand I should go with, because clearly they are on another level. So it says a lot about your brand, and I think it reflects on the quality of your product. I think if you have a really high quality video, people presume that you have a high quality product, right? It's kind of, so I think it has more utility than some people think, to make sure your video is done professionally, is done well. But the reality is, you can also have low funnel like performance with stuff that doesn't have high production value as well. But I think that the top brands, they are going to enforce that across the whole funnel.
That's great, Rob. That leads kind of the second follow-up question, which is, how does UGC compare to production level videos in today's landscape and market?
Yeah, so on things like TikTok, Instagram, I mean, UGC is like, the ROI of UGC is really, really good. I mean, it's like people don't want to watch ads, right? People also don't want to watch kind of inauthentic UGC either, right? I think people want to watch authentic stuff. So I think that UGC is incredibly effective and incredibly important, especially on social, but also plays a really important role on your listing pages. Also can make for really, really effective sponsored brands video ads. I've seen that all the time. I've seen an ad on, I've seen sponsored brands video ads that's just a person using the product. It almost looks like just one of those like, Amazon review videos, right? But it's just them demonstrating the product. Really effective, especially if it's really relevant to the keyword. So I think UGC plays a really important role in the overall landscape of your content.
Awesome. Christina, last question for you, and I think we'll be at time. How do I know when I'm ready to move from sponsored product ads to DSP?
That is a good question. There are different scenarios for different brands, of course. But I would say, are you using all of the sponsored product ads? Like really everything? Have you tried all of it? Do you really understand your persona, how they're behaving on Amazon at that bottom level when they're ready to buy? And then really the entry point to getting to that next stair step is also making sure that you have your defensive in place, and that you have a good in the competitive landscape, that you're not losing too much. And then the entry to that DSP, to that retargeting, is actually lower than a lot of people think. I can throw out a number, but start at 5,000 instead of back in the day when you had to do 15,000 minimums for 3 months. Now you can start lower and really test and get more insights into that buying behavior as well. So I would say really utilizing all of the sponsored ad side. And if you realize you exhausted everything, you understand, you have tested different creatives, have an understanding of who your persona is, move into that next step.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I think we are about time. So again, if you want to reach out to either Avenue7Media or VideoFresh, you can reach out to me. My email's there on the screen, along with our website address, Rob Wiltsey at VideoFresh. Again, his email and website is available on the screen. We appreciate everybody joining today. And if you signed up for the webinar, watching the recording later, We're really excited. Make sure you stay subscribed. You can go to that last slide there, because we have a DSP CTV readiness checklist that we will be sending to you in the following week, so that you can go through the checklist and have a really good understanding of, do I have my creative in place? Do I have my sponsored product, sponsored brand ads in place, or even DSP to be able to move up the funnel? So thank you guys so much for joining. Christina, thank you for your time, your expertise. Rob, thank you for your time and expertise. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who came and joined today. We appreciate you and would love to connect with you in the future.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.